All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. It is Sunday, April 6th. We have an 11-game NBA slate to dive into in today's video. Like we always do, I'm going to dive into each and every one of these games. I'm going to give you my prediction on the side. I'll give you my prediction on the total. We'll talk about any other plays like player props that we like within the game as well. But as always, guys, keep an eye down on the pinned comment of this video. That'll take you to all of my final plays so that I'm actually rolling with myself. If that does interest you, absolutely free down in the pinned comment. All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. I tell you guys I'm a dummy all the time. They don't suck. They've just been sucking. Get them down to -3 for more juice than Jose Canseco in his prime. Tell me you're new without telling me you're new. So don't go jumping down my throat in the comments, right? If you want to fade me, or if you do want to ride me, this still leaves a bad taste in my mouth, right? And remember, more chins, more wins. In terms of yesterday, another 2-0 night, bringing us to a 7-0 run over the last few days in the NBA. It's funny because obviously we like to have more volume than this, right? I say it all the time, but with the wonkiness of the NBA right now, we've been very conservative, a couple plays per day, and it's been working out for us. Mike Conley cashes for us yesterday, and then the Timberwolves -4.5 parlayed with the Clippers -1.5 for that slimy parlay with juiced odds. That comes through as well. So yeah, maybe we can keep this heater going. This is such a volatile time in the NBA, but somehow, some way, we're heating up, right? We're on fire here. And speaking of being on fire, Parlay Guru with the fire emojis, pumping some crowd noise for the dude. He had the ride of the day of Jalen Duren double-double. Jalen Duren had a monster game yesterday. So another ride of the day hit for Parlay Guru, looking to go for his third tonight. That was the second in a row. If you guys don't know what the ride of the day is, it's just something cool and unique that we do here on the channel. All you have to do is use that hashtag ride of the day down in the comments. I jump on board with one person's play each and every day. Give you a shout out in the next video, win or loss. If you win, we continue to roll and ride with your plays like Parlay Guru today. If you lose, which at some point we all lose, right? We don't want it to be the case. You still do get the shout out, but we got to drop the womp womp on the soundboard and talk about it the next day. But you still get that shout out. We also shout it out over on my Twitter/X, which will be popping up here, bottom left of your screen throughout the video, as well as on the Guy Boston Sports site along with the final plays there. So make sure to keep an eye on that. If you are interested in figuring out daily what is the ride of the day, if you want to hop on board with Parlay Guru, myself, and the rest of the community. But all right, let's go ahead and dive into this slate. It's a big one. There's a lot of games in here, or a few games in here, I should say, that I don't really love, but there's some value on the board today. Again, we're probably still going to say somewhat conservative, half unit plays, maybe 2 or 3 in a day like today. We got baseball rolling as well, which we have a lot more quantity, not necessarily units wise, but a lot more quantity in terms of plays day to day. So a lot going on right now. But I like what we've been doing in the NBA. We're not touching anything unless you really, really like it or love it, that type of stuff. So, and it's led to a 7-0 run, which is pretty good for our final plays. I'll take that into the week, as should anyone else. But let's go ahead and dive into these games. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let's get rocking. Starting it off with Charlotte taking on Chicago. Injury report, we know that Charlotte is super banged up. Now Mark Williams listed as questionable. So is Nick Smith. So their front court could be a little banged up. Lonzo Ball questionable. Trey Jones still out. No other major injuries to note. So Josh Giddey, White, Herter, Bazelas, and Vucevic all looking like they're good to go and start. Now this is a 1 p.m. start, kind of a weird timing one. And a weird game overall. If we look at ththese two squads, so Chicago's coming off of 2 straight wins. They beat Toronto and Portland, big whoop. But it's not like we can say Charlotte's any better than either of these squads, right? So sure, maybe the Bulls are winning some games against bad teams lately. And then Charlotte, on the other hand, just 2-8 both straight up and against the number in their last 10 here, coming off of a 20-something point loss against Sacramento. I would say overall, the Bulls should want this game a little bit more now. They're still in the play-in. They're going to be a play-in team. There's not enough games left in the year for them to get out of that, but they're only a half game above the Heat in terms of being the 10 seed, and they're only a game behind, which saying only a game at this point of the year can be a little dicey too, but they're only a game behind the Hawks. So this should be a game that the Bulls want to win and come out and really try and win. And I don't mind that for them because, if you want to attack this Charlotte team, you're going to want to shoot a lot of threes and run on them. The Bulls do both of those things. So are the Bulls going to be able to hit their threes or anything like that? That's always the question. I mean, we took the Bulls team total under last time out, under 120.5. They scored 118. They got damn close, right? 1-3 would have, I think it was 122.5. So we had a little bit of wiggle room, but still pretty damn close. I think that they hit their threes. I don't see any reason why Charlotte should be a team that really stops them ultimately, right? So give me the Bulls in this spot. I don't like it at 10. I'd probably want this at 9.5. I know that's not a big difference, but if we can just kind of get our brain to think, okay, go win by double digits, that's what we'd look at. That would be the only way that I probably end up playing this one. I don't really have a good feel on either an over or under in this spot because I could totally see Charlotte slowing things down. But again, like, it's not like they're a team that can take control. They don't have LaMelo in there, Brandon Miller. They don't have, I mean, Miles Bridges could take control, I guess, but they don't have that ability to say, hey, we're going to play this at our pace. I think they're more likely to just kind of go with the flow here in this spot. And if the Bulls are running, this one could get up there pretty quickly. But it also, if this thing gets faster pace, I think the Bulls start to pull away because I don't think Charlotte has the legs to keep up with that. So I would lean towards the over, but probably nothing that I roll with myself. It'd be Bulls or pass, and the Bulls wouldn't be a team that I'm confident marking them down to like -1.5 or money line in a slimy parlay. I don't think that they're that much better than Charlotte, where that's almost a guarantee in a parlay. We've been doing that with teams that I see a huge talent discrepancy against, and we move that line down. This 10 number is still a large number altogether, but I don't think the Bulls are like truly 10 points better than Charlotte. The situation makes them better, so yeah, I don't know if that makes sense, but essentially it would only be the flyer of Bulls -9.5 or nothing in this one. All right, next up, Brooklyn taking on Toronto. Scotty Barnes listed as questionable in this one. No Quickly, no Pirtle, so obviously those are big. But on the other side of things, no D'Angelo Russell, no Day'Ron Sharpe. Cam Johnson's also missing this one, and Nick Claxton. So all of a sudden, what you would think is an advantage for Brooklyn with no Jakob Pirtle down there turns into a wash because you have Robinson now going up against, maybe Watford's getting the start at the 5, which that's a pretty small lineup if you ask me, right? Robinson at least is almost 7 feet. I think he's like 6'11", something like maybe 6'10", whatever. But RJ Barrett and Scotty Barnes should be able to, I would say, control this game. We're getting a decent number behind them too, right? I think -150 for the money line or -2.5 if you want to look at it there. So yeah, I think Toronto wins this one in the paint. If Nick Claxton was playing and Jakob Pirtle wasn't, I do think that shifts a little bit. So Cam Johnson, Nick Claxton, these guys that could compete in the paint down there, I don't necessarily see that happening today. So give me Toronto. They are on the road. I don't love the spot for them. They've lost 3 straight games. Chicago, Portland, the Detroit one's probably the only one that, I can justify. But it's not like Brooklyn's out here playing good basketball, right? They're 3-7 in their last 10 games. The one thing we can say, and this is when they're getting bigger numbers than +3, so I will mention that, but they're 6-4 against the number. So if you like Brooklyn at home, I really can't argue it at home this season. They haven't been the best cover team, but they've been a good cover team all year. But Toronto, because they've been so poor on the road, they've been getting a lot of big numbers, not usually favored, so that's different today. Keep that in mind, but they've covered in 61% of their road games this year. So it's Toronto or nothing for me. And like I mentioned, I don't mind the idea of, I guess someone like Scotty Barnes or RJ Barrett to have decent games here in this spot. I think that they're really going to have an edge down in the paint. So we can consider those two guys. And in fact, considering those two guys, we'll get to the total in a second. Scotty Barnes, we got a free square over on Sleeper for him today, 0.5 points. So that's probably my favorite player prop in this game. If you do want to hook yourself up with that and you have not signed up for Sleeper yet, new customers are getting that square as well as a Play 5, Get $55 promo. You place a $5 entry as a new customer, they're going to go 5-5, 11x that right away. You get 11 free $5 plays. So go ahead and check it out. That link will be down below in the description as well as the pinned comment, or sign up using code GUYBOSS. And if you feel like you know player props well or love player props, honestly, in terms of these DFS player prop apps, there's not many places better than Sleeper, if any at all. I love the fact that Sleeper has dynamic payouts, meaning each and every player you throw in changes the payout. They don't follow a fixed payout structure. And they have alternate lines. They have every line imaginable. They don't bump things off their app or site, anything like that. So go ahead and check it out, guys. That link will be down below in the description as well as the pinned comment. In terms of the total in this one, so you have Toronto, who can run and likes to run. And then you have Brooklyn, who has been a fairly slow team overall, right? So who is going to take control of this one? I think that Toronto, if they kind of control the pace, this thing's going to get up and over. And I've already seen this, I think, bump to 215, back down to 214, and then up to 215 again. So this thing may be bouncing up. So yeah, maybe snag 214.5 if you like it. Sooner rather than later. We've seen Toronto hit a few unders in a row now, but nothing close to this line. They've had higher lines because they're a faster paced team. So yeah, I don't mind the over in this spot. OKC taking on the Lakers. So the Lakers, a half game up on the Nuggets for the 3 seed. OKC, obviously, nothing that they're really going to do is going to change their seeding when it comes to the playoffs. But again, Lakers probably caring about this one overall because they want to hold on to that 3 seed, right? Right now, they're coming off of a win against New Orleans. That was a couple days ago. OKC coming off of an actual loss against this Houston team. They lost 125 to 111, which was their first loss and not cover in quite some time. You're getting a good number with OKC, obviously, right? But I think that may involve the fact, I guess, that the Lakers are really trying to win right now, right? They've won 4 of their last 6. They've won 3 of their last 4, and they've played some decent teams. Memphis, Houston, Golden State's the one game that they lost, and then they beat New Orleans handily like they should, right? I think they won by 16, and it was a 15-point spread, but it maybe closed at 16, so it was a push. Either way, I think the Lakers do compete in this one, but OKC ultimately starts to turn the corner later in the game and pulls it out. So maybe a weird one where I don't know if this would get a little too dicey right now, but maybe like a Lakers first half, but OKC full game type of a spot. Like, again, I think the Lakers will come out and play pretty hard right off the rip. And what we've seen from these two teams are not the most like egregious games. I mean, we only have the one from this year, but they would have covered this line, right? So, yeah, to me, this is a spot in which I think the Lakers do their best to keep it close, but OKC ultimately ends up pulling it out. Now, in terms of what we have from a total, it's at 230. OKC will run. And I think that that's going to be a way that they can certainly score on this LA team who allows over 53% field goal percentage to their opponents in transition. But we've seen the Lakers also be able to up the pace when and where they need to, right? So I think that they can compete with that and potentially also the veteran status of LeBron, Luka being able to control the ball, Austin Reeves kind of in that same boat. I don't mind the idea of the Lakers saying, hey, we can try and run with you, but if we really want to keep this game close, let's slow the tempo down, have a lot of half-court basketball. OKC will still be able to score in the half-court, do not get me wrong, but I think the Lakers' best bet to keep this game close is to slow it down. So I'm actually going to take a peek at a slight under here, but probably only by a few points. I'm not thinking this is a game that ends in the teens. It's probably like 228 and just barely goes under. But still, nonetheless, it would be what I'd consider in terms of a total here for sure. I'm having a hard time making a rationalization for the over. Austin Reeves, I think, could be in a good position here. I think that this Thunder team being really good defensive is going to focus on LeBron, no duh. Focus on Luka, no duh. Austin Reeves has been, I don't want to say sneaky, but has been absolutely crushing it lately. In terms of his PRA line. Now, he has a line right now, I believe, 27.5. I think you can still get 26.5 out there, but 27.5 I'm fine with. He's averaging 35.4 in his last 10. He's only missed the mark in one of those games, and he finished with 23. Head-to-head against this Thunder team, it's been a little dicey. He did hit it 2 times ago playing them, but the one time that he played them this year, he didn't have the best game. He shot, I believe, it was like 27% from the field and all that. There was obviously, that was a different team, no Luka in that one. That might have been the only big, obviously, difference because LeBron, I want to say, played. But overall, I do think that this could be a decent matchup for him. He'll be able to shoot the 3 ball, but I think that he can rack up some decent assist spots here as well. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he goes out there and gets like 5 assists and has a decent scoring night because, again, a lot of that defensive focus is going to be on Luka and LeBron, and throw in the fact that, Austin Reeves will also sit there and shoot some spot-up jumpers. If that defense is sagging for LeBron, for Luka, Austin Reeves probably gets 2 or 3 more spot-up looks than he normally would have. So Austin Reeves is a potential play today. It is a high line, but it's because he's been crushing it. Cleveland taking on Sacramento. Sacramento, they are hanging on to a playoff spot. I mean, they're tied with the Mavs for the 9 and 10 seed, but the Mavs, I believe, have the tiebreaker over them. But that might just be because they've played, they have one more win than them. I believe also one more loss. But they're only 2 games ahead of the Suns. Now, I'm not sitting here telling you that there's enough time in this season necessarily for the Suns to overtake 2 games, but the Kings want to make sure that doesn't happen. And every win is going to help that, right? Cleveland is sitting there being like, all right, we're good to go. We're already 5 games up on Boston. We're the number 1 seed. It's not like they're really competing at this point with OKC, which I guess they're only a few wins off, right? But for the best record in the league, but even still, best record means you just have to win it. You don't have to go out there and cover it. I'm trying not to get to Sacramento in this spot, but this is weird that we've seen this Sacramento team. They already beat the Cavs just a couple weeks back. I want to say it was like 3 weeks ago. Now that was a game in which I Darius Garland didn't play. Either Mobley or Garland. I think it was Mobley played. He had a good game. But we saw a really good performance from Monk, from DeRozan. But that was also a game in which no Sabonis. So it's like, do they match up fairly well against this Cleveland team? I think they do, but the fact that Sacramento, and you guys know I'm always trying to make an argument for Sacramento, but the fact that they won that last game, I do think Cleveland comes in here and says, hey, let's punk them, right? And they're coming off of a tough game against who they play. Not that great of a team. They should have played a little bit better. They should have won that game by more than whatever they won by. Cleveland's now at home. I think they take this one and take care of business here. I'm going to lean towards Cleveland. It's probably a spot in which we would involve them in some sort of a slimy parlay, just because 9.5, 10 points does seem like a lot against a team that clearly, for what it's worth, matches up somewhat well against you. I would say matches up well against you in the paint, but if Cleveland's shooting is on, and they didn't have Garland last time they played, this should be a spot in which a lot of those guys that like to shoot the three have some decent, performance, or are eligible, I guess, to have a decent performance against them. So I like Darius Garland. I like his PRA. And I'd also consider maybe someone like Hunter, to be honest, too, to be able to have a decent performance there. So yeah, keep an eye on that. I think Dean Wade's questionable, which may even just result in some more Hunter minutes. So give me Cleveland as well as Garland and some of the other shooters on that squad. And then in terms of a total, 236 seems a little bit high. I'm going to go under. I think that, we're almost negating the fact that there's a chance that this game is just a battle down low, and Sacramento's actually good defensively down there. Cleveland likes to shoot down there. If Cleveland hits their shot, sure, that's going to be pretty tough, but I don't think that Sacramento's going to compete, so it should be one-sided. If this turns into a three-point shootout, Cleveland's going to run away with it. I don't think Sacramento keeps up, so I'm going to lean towards the under 236. Yikes. My Boston Celtics here, 20.5-point favorites over Washington. Enough said on this one. Nothing that makes me want to take Washington. Obviously, the Celtics being a team that, just punked the Suns, and now the Suns' playoff hopes plummeting. Washington on the other side, they're obviously a bad team. Celtics with an alternate line and some sort of parlay or pass for me in this one. I don't mind a Celtics team total over, but are we really going to get 48 minutes out of them? I'm not quite sure. The injury report is quite extensive. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown both listed as questionable. By extensive, I mean their two best players may not play. So this is not one that I'm touching. Will be watching, but not touching. Pause. All right, Portland taking on the Spurs here. Spurs coming off of, that is who Cleveland played, isn't it? So the Spurs coming off of that game against Cleveland. They only lose by one. They were like 13-point dogs, so they covered that. The Spurs have actually quietly covered in 7 of their last 10 games. They're only 4-6, but 7 of their last 10 they've covered in. Portland, 6 of their last 10 they've covered in. They're coming off of that loss to Chicago. We had that game spelled out correctly, right? Portland did play decent defense, at least in terms of the team total, and they ended up covering the game. They've covered in 3 straight. In terms of what we have from the injury side of things, Jeremy Sohan listed as out, and then the rest is the same old for the Spurs, right? No Fox, no Wemby, we know that. But Portland's injury report is getting long, and it's already been long. Simons, Kamara, and Advia, Danny Abdu listed as questionable. Those are starters, right? Jeremy Grant, doubtful. Sissoko, questionable. Reith, questionable. DeAndre Ayton out. Scoot Henderson out. So a lot of these guys are potentially not playing. So for that reason, give me the points with San Antonio. Do I have the cojones to roll with it myself? I'm not sure, but they have been playing, like I said, covering basketball, right? Like some of these teams that they've played are decent teams that they've lost, they haven't covered against. Detroit, Golden State. I forget who the other one was, but a decent team. I think it was Orlando, so I guess decent. But yeah, Detroit. San Antonio plus the points would be the spot that I look at this one, in this one. And I don't mind the idea of an over. I think San Antonio is going to do their best to try to get this Portland team kind of out of their element in terms of slowing things down. And we've seen it plenty this year. Like Portland will run if they need to. And throw in the fact that they're a very good half-court, not very good, very good half-court defense. Good being the best I'd go, but not very good in transition means San Antonio, if they do elect to run, like they may be able to put up some points. So I'm going to lean towards the over in this spot as well. And then with all those injuries, nothing on the player prop, end that I'm really liking today. Again, we're trying to stay fairly conservative. Atlanta on a back-to-back here taking on Utah, who I think Utah is also a team that has thrown in the towel. 1-9 in their last 10, 3-7 against the number. At least Atlanta is 6-4 against the number. Now they are on a back-to-back. Atlanta on back-to-backs this season. Not exactly the worst, but not the best. 53% cover rate, which is slightly profitable, right? This isn't a huge number to me. Like the way that this Atlanta team should be able to play is, okay, let's run with Utah, and then we'll be slightly more efficient than you are. But both squads do allow tons of points in transition. But Atlanta at least can score in the paint a little bit more consistently. So that's why I do like Atlanta kind of with the paint. Like Utah, last 10 games, 77% of their opponents at the rim. 77% field goal percentage at the rim. No Marketing, no Kessler, no John Collins. KJ Martin might be out. So, boom, a lot of interior presence out there as well. Walker Kessler being the biggest one. So I do think that this could be a fair spot to consider Atlanta even at that number, which is crazy on a back-to-back, which is crazy. But if they're going to run, I think that both teams will be like, hey, let's do it. So I guess I slightly lean towards it over. It's a little bit too high of a number late in this year for me to actually roll with myself. But if they're running, I think Atlanta is going to be the team that converts a little bit more efficiently. Even though they're not the most efficient offense, they're playing an defense that they should definitely, like taking candy from a baby type of thing. So give me Atlanta, maybe a team total over for Atlanta in this spot. Is probably as far as I'd go. Player props, I've thought about a Kongwu a couple different ways. No Diddy there. But I do think that, it's still, even though I like Atlanta and all that, this still could be a pretty volatile game. So trying my best to stay away from it. I did look at Dyson Daniels for his steals, and we have not really looked into his steals. His steals line is at 2.5 for like minus 140. So I was like, okay, I thought it was going to be good because there's going to be a lot of back and forth and up and down and all that. And then I'm like, huh? That's what his line is at. But, this Utah team is allowing a ton of steals to his position, the guard position. So that's why I kind of started. But I was like, wow, 2.5, that is I'm not betting on the guy getting 3 steals. It's crazy. Even though he's been doing it plenty. You know what I mean? All right, Knicks, Suns. We just talked about Atlanta on the back-to-back. That's who they played, the Knicks, and the Knicks played pretty damn well against them, right? So obviously we're going to want to keep an eye on this injury report because Jalen Brunson is listed as questionable. He didn't play yesterday, so maybe he plays today. He was almost going to play yesterday, so they maybe saved him for this one. They didn't need him against Atlanta, but I don't know if they necessarily need him against Phoenix either without Kevin Durant. This Phoenix team is falling a little bit here. They've lost 5 straight games. It might be, 5 straight games. Now they've played Boston twice over those 5 games. They've played Minnesota, Houston, and Milwaukee. They haven't played the easiest of schedules, but the Knicks are playing decent basketball to close out the season. They're 4-1 both straight up and against the number in their last 5. Where Phoenix is good defensively, I mean, you're hard-pressed to find anywhere, but, it's more so in the mid-range and whatnot. So, yes, that's going to eliminate some of the looks if Brunson does play for his mid-range, maybe even Cap, but definitely Mikal Bridges. But this Phoenix team can't stop anything from deep or from right at the rim, which right at the rim is where the Knicks are scoring from. Number 1 in the last 10 games in terms of the restricted area. Not field goal percentage, but in terms of ranking of the frequency. So the shots coming at the quantity. Number 7 in mid-range, that's why I mentioned it. So, yes, that's going to be a little bit different for them because they don't have that mid-range ability. But there's nothing here that I'm sitting there thinking, okay, well, the Suns are going to stop it. I mean, the Suns do a couple different things pretty well. Isolation and no Durant, so keep that in mind. So that's going to downtick. But the Knicks actually a really good team against isolation defense. Then they're also going to have a lot of catch and shoot jumpers. The Knicks phenomenal at stopping catch and shoot. They do struggle against the pull up a little bit. So maybe player props, especially if they're trailing, you could target someone like D-Book just because you're going to get a lot of open pull-up jumpers, especially if you guys are sagging off. So sure, that could be something that you look at. It's nothing that I'm like over the moon about or anything like that. In fact, no player props that I'm loving in this one other than maybe Cat kind of eating because they can score down low. But the Knicks, that's the kind of the one weakness. Now, from the Knicks offense perspective, pick and roll, they should be able to dominate here. They should also be able to score pretty well from the catch and shoot jumper. And like I said, Karl-Anthony Towns, the best guy on the team right now, if Brunson's not playing, and I would say the best guy on the team anyways, should be able to feast down low. In fact, so should Anunoby, who's been stepping up crazily in the absence of Brunson in terms of scoring. Last 7 games, Phoenix 30th in terms of points allowed to the power forward position and 28th in terms of points allowed to the center position. So those guys should be able to take it down low. The Suns have shot decent from their perimeter this season, 6th in terms of points from 3. The Knicks top 10 in terms of defending it. So this is Knicks all day for me, even though they are on a back-to-back. They've been terrible on back-to-backs, but that's the one thing that you can make the argument for Phoenix to me. Like, I don't think that catch and shoot, or the pull-up is enough. Maybe you could catch me fading this one just because of the back-to-back. Total-wise, both two slow-paced teams. I don't think the Knicks are going to have to run on this squad. I'll slightly lean towards the under because I think it's going to be a game played where the Knicks are prioritizing 2-pointers versus 3s. Denver taking on Indiana. We kind of already mentioned it with the Lakers and the Nuggets. Like the Nuggets probably still aiming for that 3 seed. They're only a half game back of the Lakers. Lakers are the tough matchup tonight. Not to say that Denver has an easy matchup, right? Like Indiana is obviously a very good team. In terms of their ranking in the East, they are sitting pretty comfortably in the 4 seed. They have too much to go in terms of trying to get the 3 seed from the Knicks, and I doubt they're going to lose that 4 seed to the Bucks, who are 3 games back of them in the 5 seed. So I think Indiana's kind of cushioned here, whereas Denver may be coming this one with 3 straight losses saying, oh crap, let's get our you-know-what together. So this is a spot where I like Denver. 6.5 seems like a fairly low number. Jamal Murray is listed as questionable. Maybe that's the reason, but no Pascal Siakam on the side for Indiana, and Shepard's also listed as doubtful. So this is a good spot for me, in my opinion, to look at Denver. Even if we don't see Jamal Murray, that's not all that much of my concern, because the way I see Denver being able to win this one is dominating in the paint and honestly slowing things down. This total's way up at 240. I think if this is a low-scoring game, that favors Denver, and if Denver's controlling the pace and trying to score in the paint, that's going to favor Denver, because Indiana's not very good at stopping points in the paint. So, yeah, I'm going to lean towards Denver in this one pretty heavily. Like, this definitely has a chance of being a final play. If not, Denver money line with someone else like Cleveland in some sort of a parlay. And I know I keep referencing the slimy parlay and whatnot. It's just something we've been doing that's been working, where we take 2 favorites with these huge spreads and whatnot, knock them down, feel a little slimy doing it, but ultimately has been working for us. So something like that we might roll with, because I think it's a good little spot for Denver. Again, 3 straight losses. They've lost 6 of their last 10. I think they've lost 5 of their last 7, if I'm not mistaken, something like that. 4 of the last 7 at least, or 4 of the last 6 at least, I should say. So I think that this team probably is like, hello, we do not want to be falling, or at least falling back at this point of the year. And I already mentioned, they try to chase the Lakers. They're only a half game up of the Warriors, who are the 5 seed. So it's like this team is only a game out of potentially playing in the play-in because of how they're playing. So they need to get it going. I'm hoping Murray plays, because I think that helps it. As long as Jokic is there, I think this is a good spot for Denver. Good chance. I'm talking myself into it now, getting hyped up for it. Good chance we roll with Denver. And like I said, the under as well. Golden State taking on Houston. Now, Houston, much like we just talked about with Indiana, really not much higher or lower they can go in the standings. They are the 2 seed, and they're probably going to stay at the 2 seed. Golden State, on the other hand, is very applicable to what we just talked about. They are right behind the Nuggets for the 4 seed, but they're only a half of game out of being in the 8 seed. You know what I mean? I don't know how the tiebreakers would work with all those other teams, but essentially win-loss wise, that's the case. So that is a little worrisome for me if you are Houston. I think that Houston's probably going into this one a little bit more nonchalant than Golden State. Now, does Houston ever play nonchalant? No, and they've won. They won a big one against OKC. That was great. But Golden State's playing some really good basketball, right? 4 straight games they've won and covered in. 5 straight they've won, and they pushed in one of those, and that was a 16-point spread against New Orleans. So they are firing on all cylinders. They are at home here. I don't necessarily want to sit here and say, like, Houston has a massive size advantage over Golden State, which has been my rationalization for what we do roll with. But what I will say is Houston's perimeter defense is pretty good, so that worries me. But ultimately, I can't knock the fact that Golden State is probably the team that wins this one. Problem being, they win this one, right? So it's a spot in which in the last 10 that they've played, the last 10 is kind of interesting here. So we have Houston, Golden State. Well, I guess I should phrase it like this. Golden State has won 9 of the last 10. So you're like, oh, that's pretty good, right? Houston's covered in 9 of the last 10, though. How weird is that overall? So, yeah, and unless this is messed up on the site that I'm looking at, because that doesn't seem like it could happen, but interesting, right? So, yeah, Golden State is the spot for me. I think that they come into this one with a little bit more on the line. Hell, maybe a Denver-Golden State parlay. I know they're both going against good teams, but I think that with the situations at hand, which has kind of been leading us to some good spots lately, right? Like, picking these games based on who cares more and all that, which is not always the most analytical or best way to approach it. But late in the year, when you're separated by a half game and whatnot, you're telling me these guys don't wake up knowing that? So I don't know. Maybe I'm a little bit crazy, but I like Golden State in this one. I also don't mind the idea of a slight lean towards the under, because both of these are really good defenses, right? Defensive efficiency, they're both Golden State's 7th and Houston's 3rd on the season, so top 10 teams. And then in terms of opponent points per game, 8th and 5th. So yeah, I like Golden State in this spot. Quick correction on that. We did kind of go through the games, and the information I was seeing on my screen was a little wrong. Golden State has won and covered in 9 of the last 10. So they're 9-1 against Houston, dating back to like 2022. So take it with a grain of salt, but it was not the weird, like whatever I was seeing before from that one site was Golden State has won 9 of the last 10, but has not covered in 9. It's actually just Golden State has dominated in the last 10. So wanted to at least clarify, because that was super weird when I first saw it, but we checked a couple other sources and boom, that was incorrect. You can't always trust what you see on the internet, kids. All right, last game of the slate. Guys, I want you to comment 30 down below. Let me know that you made it this far, but I also want you to let me know who you think is winning the NBA championship this year. I don't care if it's a chalked pick like OKC or Boston, but I am very curious to see what you guys think. I'm going to lean towards my Boston Celtics, my favorite team. I do think they're the best team in the league. My rationalization, and you can call me biased, this is just like, Boston take here, right? The way the Celtics play with the threes, you give them 7 games against anyone, I don't think anyone can shoot with them, right? So that's kind of why I like it. OKC's probably a better team. Like if it was OKC and Celtics for one game, if they got to a game 7, sure, that's a little scary and whatnot. Or if it was played like the football playoffs, right, where it's one and done, yeah, that would worry me. But I do think the Celtics, being as good defensively and on the road as they are, and the type of basketball they play, 7 games would be scary if I'm any other team going up against them. So yeah. Again, I'm biased. I'm a Celtics fan. I watch every dribble of the Celtics every season. So sure, we can't necessarily trust my opinion and take it, with just like objectively speaking. But yeah, let me know in the comments who you think is winning the NBA championship. But we got New Orleans taking on Milwaukee here. New Orleans getting a weird number. Like I would honestly kind of assume that this one would be a little bit bigger, which makes me start to like the idea of Milwaukee, who has won 3 straight games. We've talked about their playoff situation here. They are not necessarily chasing Indiana, but they are half game out of the 6th seed, which I don't think they're going to be a playing team, so they're a little cushiony, but being the 5 or 6 does change things in terms of that initial matchup, right? Like they'd probably be getting either the Bucks versus the Pacers, right, or the Bucks versus, I want to say, the Knicks, which I don't know who they'd prefer to play. I think the bigger names are on the Knicks side of things, but nonetheless, still a spot in which the Bucks probably don't want to drop as the season concludes. I'm sitting here being like, well, that's just weird because it is a low score now. I know that Milwaukee's on the back-to-back, but this Pelicans team is one of those teams that, they already all their guys are rested and all that. Giannis is listed in the lineup today. No Portis, Sims, or Lillard as of right now, but still, like, Bucks minus the points. I know they're on the road, but they looked decent against Miami at least, getting a win, right? I think that they had, a good start to the game, and then if I'm being honest, Miami won the back half, and then it was a really low-scoring overtime, but Milwaukee dominated in overtime, but I guess that's the reason why we're getting a lower number than I would imagine, right? Like, I think that this is a spot for Milwaukee to win, but also an over to hit. I think Milwaukee on back-to-backs I've hit the over decent amount this year. I don't have that up in front of me, but yeah, I'm going to lean towards them. I think that this game matters a hell of a lot more. But yeah, back-to-back, if that's what you're weighing, then sure. But I think you're crazy to be taking the Pelicans, who have shut down anyone that can even dribble the basketball this year. So give me Milwaukee as well as the over. And guys, it's going to wrap it up for today's show. If you did enjoy, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Again, let me know who you think is going to win the NBA championship, and we'll catch you guys in the next one, right? Peace out.